Hey, so let's just jump in, right? Because we missed a couple of minutes. So I'm Jose, one of the co-founders at Aviel, also doing this AMA with our Jeremy from Naas. So Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for welcoming me, man. Pleasure to be here, and really looking forward to this conversation with you.
Awesome. So we have a couple of folks joining. We are also streaming this to multiple platforms. So some of the folks who are not joining on Aviel, you could actually enjoy this on YouTube and LinkedIn. So
Okay.
or even actually around the world, fantastic to be, welcoming you, and also want to really understand what Jeremy is building, and we want to hear out his story.
Yeah, fantastic.
Cool, awesome. So since that is done, so let me just give you a high level flow of what we are trying to do, right? So one, really understand where you're coming from, right? And also understand your background as a maintainer, as a contributor, right? I mean, all the things actually you excited about, we want hear out that bit. Then love to understand because I will predominantly focus on contributors and maintainers, right? So our focus here is to get really fantastic projects, activate their community, and bring more and more recurring contributions, right? So that's what we are focusing on. So would really love to, because we had this discussion like a couple of months back, and
Yep.
then a week before. Would really understand, from your perspective, right? I mean, what are things you're looking at so that actually the community can jump on. So really excited to hear about that bit as well.
Cool. So you want me to present the whole backstory first, and then we can move deeper into the open source
Of course,
concept?
yeah. So, first of all, yeah, definitely love to understand you. Then, why NAS? Then, then we can go more and more deeper into the open source and the community element.
Yep, excellent. So, yeah, my name is Jeremy. I'm French, so you can notice maybe this by my accent. And I've been, I didn't really went into data or open source by this was not my initial go-to, basically. So I always was very a creative guy. I always loved tech. I always loved playing with computers when I was young. But I was more a creative guy. I like music, art, history, and all around this. So I tried to figure out when I was young what I wanted to do. I moved to Asia with my backpack. I went to India for months. I went to Singapore. I went to China. I traveled the whole Asia when I was just 18 years old and allowed to travel by myself around the world. And then I came back 2009. It was the financial crisis. I had to decide to go for a university or something like for studies. And my father forced me into a business school. So I had to do a loan. The loan,
right?
yeah. I had to do a loan in the pure financial crisis. And I was really questioning myself, like, what the hell is this going? What the hell is this system? How am I doing? Is the cash really mine? So I got this loan. I went into the business school. I focused on a topic that could bring me money, which is finance. And I focused on this finance. And I was also very interested to learn about, all this, because I was making this loan to the bank. I was interested about financial markets and understanding all this thing. So basically, I started like this. And I went to South America after for my master because I wanted to study non-capitalist kind of economy. So I went to Ecuador. All those countries like Ecuador and Venezuela and Bolivia, they're like against the wave of all this like financial capitalism and all that. So I wanted to go there also to study it out. And I made my thesis over there on micro working and how do these kinds of economies work. So this was the initial building blocks of my profile. I was against the wave. I entered the financial system and trying to understand it a bit like an insider. I just wanted to understand how it works. And I ended up finally on my master in corporate finance, focus on cash management. and I entered a company in Paris called ESI Group. It's a virtual prototyping company doing software that basically allows you to create prototype in 3D and adding physics on it. So you can see what the parts is doing, if it breaks, if it burns, if whatever it is. And I was the guy in charge of managing all the cash position of the different entities around the world. So there was like 90 entities, and they were having no visibility on the cash at the group level. They were not consolidating. They were not able to tell on a daily basis, I have this much money in my bank, consolidated overall. So I started sending spreadsheets to all those guys and started to ask them to fill the spreadsheet every week. And I got into data with this, right? Because you got into the spreadsheet, you get the spreadsheet, you consolidate them, you understand how to make a proper, consolidation sheet. You do copy paste to make a good format, and you end up building reports for your CFO, for your chief financial officer, for the CEO even of the company. They were having absolutely no visibility on their cash before, so I allowed them to see week after week how the cash is moving and why the cash is moving. Is it for revenue coming in? Is it for salaries going out? Is it for R&D expenses? So you got to say, like a bit like your own personal account. Whatever categories are spent. Yeah. So this was my initial touch on finance plus data. And I was not very happy working with what I was doing. I mean, I was learning a lot, but the stack of tools was really bad. Like Excel and VBA works for some, it's copy paste, VBA or basic macro.
When was this?
It was, I think 2012, something like this. Yeah. Right. So, a few years after, 2014, 2014, right. So it was kind of logical to me to go to what's next in terms of tools. Yeah. So I learned about Python, I learned about notebooks. I moved to another company in the oil and gas industry because I wanted to see okay, those guys are doing Excel, but what about those big guys who are having billions of cash in the bank? Are they having a better stack of tools? So I was like, yeah. So I went to this big other corporation. I still was the financial analyst, that was doing the reports for the management team on the specific aspect of cash and everything. But it was no better than the other company that I was in. They were having a lot of systems. They were having a lot of automated systems to collect the data because it was more organized. There was an ERP system so there was a higher IT kind of deployment of systems. But at the end of the day, when you want to crunch data, you do it in Excel. And for business analysts, it's always the same shit. It's just like you have to crunch the data, export different CSV, mix those different CSV together, try to figure out how to make graphs, put the graph into a PowerPoint, send the PowerPoint by email, and eventually push also some data into dashboards, internal dashboards and all that stuff. So from this point onwards, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to I want to fix this thing. I want to figure out how we can actually use the data science technologies that were popping up because 2016, 17, 18, everything moved in the data world. Yeah, Python became more accessible. Anaconda started distributing Jupyter Notebook in a very intense way. They were facilitating everything. Python was really much easy to use because of the work of also Anaconda with the packaging of the different libraries. Then some ML libraries became also very easy to access, like scikit-learn, NumPy, and all that. So I was really into this is actually very cool. I can just download the package and use this and figure out how to do the stuff, and everything is accessible for free. Everything is open source. So I became like, I fall in love with open source at this moment. You know, I was like, oh my God, it's so powerful. Everything is here, accessible for free, and you can really upgrade the way you work. So yeah, that's my origin story, basically. So from this point, I really was like, there is something to crack for bringing open source to this ecosystem of business people that are like, they don't even feel good about working at what they do. You know, the people are, you know, tired of doing all the same stuff all over again and not automated, and Python and notebooks and all that stuff like kind of open the door, but they don't know really how to go there, right? They're like, I know that this can be useful, but they don't really know how to do it. So I was always obsessed by bridging the gap between this business reporting analytics kind of questioning and how you bring good data to the management team so they can take good decisions, and the tech and how the tech can connect easily to that. So I went from this experience to being an entrepreneur, and this is where my journey starts, by basically starting a consulting agency, selling my services as a finance and tech guy, finance and tech, blending the two, selling this to like business department, like, hey, you don't know how to talk to your IT team, but you want to have those reports. I can do the bridge. I can work it out, write the script. I use notebooks, check it out. Then we can integrate the script into your production environment. And that's how we got started, and we got some money. My brother Florent joined me. We started working a lot with this, but it was too painful to go into production. It was too heavy. There were still many dependencies. You need to send the script to this guy that will deploy it someday, and then you lose track because it's not very. There is a lot of friction. So Jupyter Notebooks was the good solution. Python was the good solution. It enabled a lot, but automation and going to production was complicated still. So we started looking at what could be the solution where we can stay inside the notebook, but we can deploy the notebooks like in a very autonomous way without having dependencies from data engineers, software engineers, DevOps. Just us from the notebook, deploying to a server, running it on schedule because you want to have this analysis of this email sent to you with this nice graph, with this Excel spreadsheet attached. You want to be able to deploy something and to make it usable without having any dependencies. So this is how we started looking at what are the technologies that you can add on top of notebooks that can transform notebooks into services. So, and this is where Naas, Notebook as a Service, starting to emerge. And we saw that when there was one company who was using this kind of mindset, like upgrading notebooks, going beyond notebooks, and this company was Netflix.
Wow.
And those guys have used notebooks to actually deploy automation from the notebook. They can create automation for alerting, visualization, reports, all of that. So it was the perfect use case. And they developed a component called Paper Mill, which enabled you to actually transform the notebook into something that is executable. So it's a productionization of notebooks, basically. So we used this technology. It was open source also, and we packaged it into Naas. So Naas is essentially Jupyter Lab, a Jupyter instance, like you download on your computer when you're data science, when you're doing data. You always have your Jupyter on your local machine, but we have added layers on top. And there is one layer with the features layer. You can do scheduling, you can do asset sharing, webhook, notification from this layer, and you can access it in low code, meaning that it's really one line formula. If you want to schedule your notebook, you just do nas.scheduler.add and you put a cron expression, cron task to make it there. So it's just one line of code. And all of those features that we've created are always low code. So we have this feature layer this driver layer, which is the connector layer. So we want to connect to different tools and enable people to really connect to APIs without having to write like so much code in their scripts.
Okay.
And the final layer is templates. And templates are actually where we are focusing the most right now, because templates are pre-built logic to do specific kind of jobs, of data jobs, of tasks. And we already have like almost 500 templates. We launched 1.5 years ago. So it's kind of a good number already.
Yep.
And we intend to build the biggest template library for notebooks, like where notebooks is the base. And those templates can actually serve as building blocks of greater package experience we call data products. Because if you use templates, it's like components when you're using any kind of like web libraries. You use the components, you stitch them together, and you create a new software, basically. So the whole idea is to create this open source catalog with the open source community, with people, because so much people have notebooks on the side that use for this project, but they never like centralize it or put it somewhere. It's called Untitled number 1, Untitled number 2. It's always messy and staying on your computer. You don't know really what to do with it. So we want to encourage people to come, contribute of what they have created. We have a framework, very easy framework to package and to make sure all the templates look the same. And we hope to connect businesses with open source community, being like, hey, those guys have done this template. We can provide the technology that will enable you to take those templates, package them together, and create products at the end of the day. So that's the essence of what we do. Like making data science or data very easy to access from a business standpoint, and connecting it to the open source world, where contributors are actually maintainers of building blocks of something that business can use to create products.
Understood.
So that's pretty much what I can say in a short, like 15-20 minutes introduction. So I hope it was enough to get started, and I'm happy to follow along with
it made my life a lot easier. Like I had like a couple of questions, like you pretty much covered the entire spread. So
now we can have like, this is like the conventional talk and introduction. Now we can go into the details and get into the.
So usually like there are a couple of these checkpoints, right? Usually a lot of the maintainers we talk to, it's mostly, it's scratching their own itch, right? Something they got stuck, they pick up and they try to solve it. So I could definitely relate to that in that way. Like, you had the frustration, like, inside working in a big organization. So like, let's fix it. And you see the opportunity as well, right? People, I mean, one is, Jupyter notebooks and the evolution of, AML and the data getting stuck in different silos. So I can definitely relate to that bit. I have a follow-up question on that bit. So when you say, like who's your ideal user inside our organization, right? Is it like data analyst, or like is it like where who are the sort of people actually right now using it, or like who are the sort of people you want to use down the line?
Yeah, so right now it's mostly people that knows how to use notebooks and Python already.
Yeah.
It's data analysts, but business analyst also knows Python and notebooks. So it really depends on the people that are inside the organization, right? So sometimes you have a business analyst that is already doing his report using notebooks on his computer, but he doesn't have the ability to schedule it. That's fine. Sometimes it's a data scientist that is already here, depending on the data engineering team to deploy the model, to train it, and to, and he is not able to like test because he needs to deploy a server, put a cron task, so he needs to have an engineer to do it. That's a good fit for him too. Maybe there is a data engineer as well. The data engineer might be like, hey, I want to package libraries. Mm-hmm. This is where the drivers, NAS drivers, the connectors, the second layer I was telling you about, is good for data engineers. So I want to provide my data science team with the ability to actually use packaged, simplified, formula for my data scientists to connect to different tools, to say to Snowflake, to say to Redshift, to say to the stuff, without having to get into like the whole Python code. So the script of the data scientist is a bit like less heavy, right? Mm-hmm. So data engineer also good to as a contributor to the open source project, because they can package libraries and connectors. And there is also DevOps. But the idea is, so the Naas is really covering the whole spectrum of whatever you need to do when you do data. It's a all-in-one data platform that we are trying to build. The more impactful users, I would say, are the ones that are the closest to the business decision makers, really. Okay. But it can really serve the whole, stream, really, because it's open source, so you can deploy it on your own infrastructure, your own DevOps. You can package as a data engineer some libraries you can use, train, and you can also distribute reports. So I would say mostly data science, business analysts, data engineering are the guys that are the most inclined to use the product. And this is what we see right now. There are a bunch of analysts and scientists working with data.
And it's this also like agnostic to industries, right? But do you see any particular industry sort of like picking up right now, like in terms of adoption?
Yeah, we start to see as we are now going to the monetization phase.
Yeah,
we start to see 4 industries.
Okay.
So there is the media and advertising industry. They are struggling a lot with, hey, how I can get data from LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, consolidate all this, make reports on my numbers, my reach. Basically the whole game is, how do you impact your top line, which is the revenue? The revenue comes from how much people you can reach. So people are going to social media right now, and they want to follow the reach, because a percentage of this reach is eventually turning to revenue. So it's hard to follow all those trends, all those posts, all those content created. So we are building this product, I was telling you, using templates that actually consolidate data from LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all those like social platform that matters, and create a database where everything is aligned. The same schema, the same database schema, the same columns are used for consolidating basically all the data from the social media. And you can also we build also reports on top of it, and we send it to Notion.
Okay.
Because Notion is where most of those folks from marketing and content are working. Yeah. So this is one data product that we are actually now packaging into a specific experience, a specific product. Inside the Naas platform, there will be some solutions, and social are one solution. So media is really interested into this, but also into marketing and ads. So there is a few things that are going on here. Then what we see is at the very opposite of the spectrum, basically, we are seeing interest in the asset management industry.
Oh, wow.
So people who are managing, they manage assets like buildings, but they have a portfolio. They just buy and sell, buy and sell, buy and sell. So they have different systems to connect to if they want to get the data and create reports for investors. So you have middlemen, basically the guy in charge of managing the portfolio. So Naas with the template approach can be like, I don't really care about if it's this tool or this tool. I will just use the templates to connect to this, to connect to that. I have my product that runs, that is the schema, the semantic is not dependent on the tool. I plug the tool, I structure the data the way I want it to create the reports. So this is something that is also very interesting. So we're having clients in the asset management industry. And then there is the e-commerce. And e-commerce is really going and using a lot of different tools. So you have, you may use those like modern data tools, modern data stack tools like Airbyte, like Google. You know, you have basically Google Analytics on your website. You want to use Airbyte because you want to take everything from Google Analytics and dump it to your Google BigQuery database. So you use Airbyte for that. Then you once it's in BigQuery, you use dbt for SQL queries. Then you use something else, reverse ETL, to push to your CRM, so your sales management system. So your sales guy are aware of, yeah, this guy has been going into this, and maybe you need to send a promotion to him, and you know, this kind of stuff. But they are not able to manage all the different tools in a holistic manner. So like, so Naas provides the ability to connect to Airbyte, dbt, BigQuery, all those tools that you have, and to monitor what's going on using, you know, templates and scheduling. The scheduling system that we provide enables us to like watch what's going on all those tools, and if there is something wrong, then we can send notification emails or whatever needs to be sent to the guy in charge of managing this.
Got it.
So these are a few use cases that we see, and it's mostly around those use cases that we are now trying to figure out the monetization of the open source project.
Understood. So I have this follow-up question. So I mean, let's say actually I come to the Naas and then actually I create my own template. Is there any chance I can sort of like share it like outside, like can I make it public and someone else like take it and then actually fork it and then play around? Like, is there an option for that?
Yeah, of course. So the repository, if you go to GitHub/Jupyter-Naas, you'll see that there is all those different layers that I talked to you about, templates, drivers, features, are pinned on the repo. So you will see it right away. And the awesome notebooks repository is the template repository. You will figure it out. And so that's the whole template over there are accessible for everyone to use. It's really not dependent on Naas. It's really a catalog of templates. We just want to make sure that those templates are not dirty, well written.
What I was thinking, like, see, let's say actually, you know, like I create a template, right? I can post. I mean, I got the GitHub handle, but on Naas itself, if I can actually post it and people can upload, they can create their own fork. So it will be a fantastic GTM for you. Like people can head out, hey, this is actually my, I mean, I'm an analyst, I do XYZ, right? I mean, these are the use cases I cover, and you can pick up from there, right? I mean, I'm saying from there's this tool called Dune Analytics. It's very popular in the Web3 world. So what it does, you know, anyone can come. So I have like, you know, my own private as well as public, you know, like dashboards I create, right? And if I make it public, anyone can come there, you know, create, fork of it, duplicate it, and, you know, I mean, change my queries, right? So it's great in terms of adoption. You know, I'm just saying, like, I mean, I love Dune Analytics. So because you have a template play would be really great in terms of, you know, adoption. Just your idea.
Yeah. So that's the next stage of our development. After we figure out the right way to use the templates to package products for businesses, for actual serving businesses, what we want is the people that contribute to template to be able to, you know, connect to those businesses to create the use cases.
Yeah.
And then as they became knowledgeable enough for a specific area, they can create their own product on the marketplace. And this is the marketplace play that we are talking about here, where you have a marketplace of already built products that are sourced from the templates. But templates are, you know, you need to understand the templates is really just a job, just one task. So you need to bundle some tasks together to create like finite analysis. The thing I was telling you about is like, you know, we started doing everything into one template, but this is not good. This is not like readable enough. You want to modularize your code. You want to make sure that one notebook is doing one thing, as would do any kind of script or any kind of component in a web software development. So this is the same idea. So eventually, you as a template producer could connect to companies that want to use your template, and so you can build stuff for them, and then you can also get the inspiration for building greater stuff and products that can be then reusable, and you can make money out of it.
Yep.
That's the idea. My good hope is like we are going to be able to like finance open source through this scheme, through this idea.
Yeah. I mean, this is a really fantastic idea, especially for the contributors, right? I mean, because it's a win-win, right? They're fundamentally creating something out of your tools, and then anyone from the users of business can pick it up. They can ask them, hey, you know what? I need something else. I need this particular integration. I need this thing. Like, can you do that for me, right? There's a service element, there's a product element. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal, and it's hard. It's hard to do this, right? It's open source is still not well understood by businesses. People who are contributing to open source are not really valued so much. When you contribute to open source, it's hard to get like recognition, and you guys are doing a fantastic job at turning this problem around. So I'm really hoping that this whole open source play will like be really on the battlefield against what's going on right now, right? It's like there is a lot to do.
No, see, I think contribution for open source is very, very hard. It's not easy, and especially like I think I would say like it's more like there's a huge chasm, right? I mean, you have like jump, like do multiple contribution, like get confidence, right? So that's the thing we're trying to plug in. Like I mean, there are tons of great developers, but they're scared of jump in, right? And like you said, even if actually I spend enough time, like like what I get out of that, right? I mean, definitely there's reputation, but that's still not really captured. So there's still, I mean, you clearly articulate right. Open source is really hard to understand for outsider. I mean, why do people actually just work for fun, right? That's really hard to call. So there's definitely a couple of things we are tackling, but yeah, I mean, I think you guys are actually on the right track. I'm really excited in terms of what you guys do. So in terms of roadmap, right? What is the thing you guys like? What is 6 months or 12 months roadmap, and what is the stuff you are super excited about?
So there's quite a lot of things, but if we move backwards and trying to what we missed and what was the roadblocks that we got, so we started the project beginning of end of 2020, beginning of 2021. Okay. That was the end of COVID. Before we were an agency, and we were like, hey, there is no way we can keep doing an agency, so we need to try build the product. We were already using this product for ourselves when we operate. So we are trying to like go into the open source, and we didn't know shit about open source. Like we didn't know anything. We were like, hey, I just used open source myself for years. I'm just happy to just put it back. Yeah, it's like, why not? I mean, it's just people might find it useful. But when you launch a product in open source, you feel like job done. Yeah, it's just the beginning, and you need to work it out as a proper product. You need to figure out like how people can understand what you're operating, and if they want to get involved, it needs to be easy for them to understand how to get involved. And at the very beginning, we got tons of like contributions and not tons, but like we got like 50, 60 contributions that started popping up, and we didn't know how to deal with it. Like literally, we were like, hey, that's great, but how can we actually integrate this into our roadmap? Sometimes people contribute to some stuff you have not thought about, and you're like, I might integrate this, but is it the right time? And so you lose momentum sometimes with some contributors because they are excited about the project, and then you are not integrating or merging the PR to right now because it's not really on your focus, on your roadmap.
Yep.
So it's kind of, this is hard, right? This is like you get interest and then you feel like you get interest and then you feel like it might go this and this and over and over and over again. If your contributions are not aligned with your roadmap. So you understand. So what I learned from this is like you need to make sure that your interest into the development of your open source project is completely aligned with whatever your contributors are actually wanting to do. And it's a lot about like communication with those guys, understanding who are your contributors, like really understand them, really understand who they are. So then we figured, like when we started, really focus on not only like anonymous kind of contributors where you only know the GitHub ID, to I cannot really know this guy. I know that he's working at this company, that he works on this technology, that he is interested into building this set of templates because he has been through this hell before and he wants to help and he wants to also capitalize on the work he's been doing. So the learnings from this is really like listen more to the people and understand and know them as they were your friends, or you need to connect on a human level to the people that contribute to your project. So this is why we started also the community calls. We started doing onboardings, and we are still not very good at it, but we improved a little bit at least. And there is now contributors like Shloka, and she's helping our team also get better documentation, get the roadmap more organized, trying to figure out, how to talk to also communities like you guys, and it's all about also developer relations. So one key focus on the roadmap is making sure that DevRel, developer relationship, is as smooth as it can be in the coming months, because the move we are trying to make from just building templates to actually creating products from those templates and selling them to companies, which is where we can eventually have the money flowing in to finance the open source, is key. If we don't manage to do this well, it might become a bit tricky for the future of the project. So it's really key to crack this and to understand how we can connect people together to the roadmap, and the roadmap to the interest of the companies that are here. So it's not just contributing for fun, right? It's also trying to figure out where we can get the money, sell, and give back to the contributors. This is the whole thing. So if this is my main focus right now, it's to crack this thing.
So let me also dive a little more onto that bit. So you mentioned about contribution, right? So that's like, if I'm a contributor, right, what are things I can contribute with Naas right now?
Oh, the templates are
maintainer.
Yeah. So if you go to the GitHub repo, you will figure out the awesome notebook templates repository. There is 500 issues we have identified already, 500 templates that we have identified of different tasks on different tools. Okay. So if you know some tools, like 10 minutes before this call, I was talking to one contributor who was saying like, hey, I worked with Zendesk. Should I contribute to it? There was no issue on the contribution. So I was like, yeah, of course, open an issue, start it out. There is a template for the issue, so you can just write it down, make sure that the framework that we enforce is respected. We always have the same framework. It's input, model, and output. Your notebook should be about writing down the inputs, like API keys or whatever. Model will be all the functions, and output would be whatever result you communicate to the outside world. So we try to enforce this framework so that people understand what to do, how to contribute. So this is how people get started. Either they look at the list of the issues we already have in place, or either they come with their own stuff. And once we have this, you enter the roadmap. We have a public roadmap on GitHub also, GitHub project roadmap you can see. Every Monday we do reviews of whatever has been done in the past week, whatever is going on in the future, and this helps us and we do this in public. We already we record the meetings and everything. So the idea is at the end of the road, you get a review by one of the core teams, and then we want to create content with your contribution to give you shout out, to give the project exposure, to get out there, to make this public, because this is also what we want to bring. If you contribute to open source, everyone should know about it, right? Yeah. Everyone should know about your open source contribution. This is a real act of doing good to society, to the whole world community of developers. I really believe that if the world was full of developers doing open source, there will be no war or any kind of stupid stuff like this, because people contribute with each other. They do software, they have dependencies. The world of software and contribution and developers is a really peaceful environment. So we want to enforce this and make sure that if you contribute to open source, you should be rewarded, you should be at least identified. And we also see a big trend in recruitment on recruiters looking at open source, looking at how much do you contribute to open source, because this is like your CV right now. Your GitHub page is like your CV. They will check your green square, they will check your project you're plugged to. So
yeah, no, I agree. No, I mean, in fact, couple of in our whole journey, I think in the last 2 to 3 months, with the rewards and the badges, I think we had 4 to 5 folks who got hired using the badge or the work they've done, right? So I think it's just day zero for us as well, but I think we definitely see a lot more people getting involved, and because of the work they've done, they're getting jobs, or even short-term or long-term gigs, right? Depends on what they want, right?
Yeah.
So definitely we see this as one of the great ways of upskilling yourself, getting out there and getting hired for that stuff.
Right? Yeah. It's the most powerful thing. And if you do projects that are actually live, if you do templates, like for our case, that people can really use, they just download the template, click on opening Naas, and you have your free account, because we provide free kind of Google Colab, or all those notebook providers. We provide a free account where you can test the template, and so that's a real proof that your work is working. What you actually do is something that people can use. So this is really powerful. Literally during the interview, you can be like, hey, look, just click here, just do this, and you'll see my work is here. I can show you what it means. I think it's the most thing you can do.
It's so powerful. When you give tools for people to sort of express themselves, right? You started your career as a musician, right? So you could definitely sort of relate to that bit, right? In a way, I feel like contributors are sort of artists, right? So they're expressing themselves, and coders in a way, right? So this is just one of the ways for them to express and share with everyone, right? So
Exactly.
Coming back to your monetization, right? So there is Naas Cloud, and you mentioned about the marketplace bit as well, right? But how do you guys? What is the roadmap in terms of I'm assuming it's free right now, right? It's still in beta, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah, we're still in beta, and it's free to use. You have a free notebook uptime, so you can go there as you go for Google Colab. What you won't have is GPU or tricky GPUs that you may have or not have, like in Colab. You don't really know what you have in Colab, to be honest. But in Naas, you have your proper server, you have 2 vCPU, you have 4 GB RAM, you have your own virtual private server you can use, and you can use the Naas features. You can use the automation, the scheduling, the asset sharing, and all of those, and you have 100 credits for free. 100 credits means basically 100 minutes of scheduled, notebooks. So that's how we play. Then we have a pro plan, on the pro plan is about like getting more credits for all this notebook productionization. And then we have a company enterprise plan where we actually just connect with you and see what's the right fit for you. So we can provide GPU, we can provide any kind of server setup inside our AWS cloud infrastructure. And that's pretty much how it is. So the game is to really, as I was saying, is to improve the developer experience so that there is more templates, more contributions, to enforce the marketplace by building products from those templates and figuring out what are the products that are bringing the most value for businesses, because this is the key to unlock all the positive flywheel that we are intending to build. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And if we go deeper into the roadmap, it means, creating also a better UI on top. Right now it's Jupyter Lab hosted. We actually intend to create one layer on top, which would really look like some kind of Google search. It will be a simple search where you can just go in, start by typing on templates or ideas, and see if it matches already one template existing. If not, then you can create, or then you can ask someone to do it for you. So we want to have this really neat experience where you enter the platform, you feel like you're in a very, very minimalist ecosystem with only one search. What do you want to do? You want to connect, you want to get LinkedIn data, you want to send, automatic emails. You will, with only a few keywords, you will be able to see if this matches your thing. So this app, this interface, this layer on top is really something that we are also looking forward to build. But for that, we need to, we still need to validate all those different gates before. So we are starting to make some proof of concept, some MVP around this interface. But we want to really be sure about the experience we want to build, basically. So design and app layer is something that we want to build on top of whatever I told you before.
Interesting. That's exciting to hear. You mentioned a couple of times about Google Colab, right? I'm assuming that's sort of the benchmark you guys are looking at, right? And I mean, when someone has to compare you guys with Google Colab, I mean, you can't really compare in terms of right now. But what is your simple pitch? If I'm actually using Google Colab right now, what would be the reason I need to switch or pick up Naas from now?
Well, it's about open source. It's about how badly you want to help the open source community to strive, right? Google Colab is a billion dollar system where what you get is.
I'm not saying right now, but let's say 2 or 3 years down the line, right? I mean, I could also
already right now, what you basically don't have by default in Naas is the GPU already there. You have 2 vCPUs, 4 GB RAM to start for free, and you have unlimited uptime. You can do whatever you want, but you're limited in terms of server size.
Got it.
What you don't have in Colab is the 500 templates, the community, the drivers, the connectors, the scheduler. You don't have that in Colab. You don't have a way to schedule your notebook. It will probably crash after 10 minutes. You're using it, you're not using it. So, there is a lot of things that we differentiate us from. But Colab is actually the benchmark. It's, if we are playing a game in the battlefield, we want those guys to be competing. We want to tickle those guys and to be like, hey, you're there, but you can also use this kind of service that we provide. And if you want to keep using Colab for having GPUs for free, fine. But just remind yourself that if you want to have a safe ecosystem where you can actually connect with people, build stuff, contribute to open source, Naas can can provide this sense of community, of building stuff together, of contributing to the product. You know, and you have actual people you can talk to, which is us, our team. You know, it's just about that, right?
So it's mostly like the family versus sports team sort of thing, right? I mean, that's.
Yes.
I also want to actually also bring up this thing, like, so Hugging Face, right? I know it's not a direct competitor, right? But I'm assuming there are a lot of overlap, right? I mean, they also have a strong community element, right? I mean, if you look at, I mean, anyone who have actually look at AML templates or tools, right? I mean, if you take out all the Google backed or like Facebook backed tools, right? I mean, Hugging Face was sort of outlier, right? And so how do you actually sort of like, I mean, like, do you like look up to Hugging Face, or like is it like
Yes. Hugging Face or French guys also that lives just like a few minutes by my house. So yeah, of course we look up to them. We actually know each other quite well. We are just not positioned in AI/ML. We really want to use what they built to fuel what we want to build, what we are doing, because they are really focused on the research side, on the scientific kind of aspect. So Naas and Hugging Face can be seen as complementary, as in they are the AI/ML community, open source community. We want to build the data analytics business automation that is using this part of the AI/ML like artifacts, whatever they're building, to fuel business automation, business analytics that are critical for enterprise on a daily basis. So it's just not the same area of focus, but it's the same philosophy where we want to have organization also joining in, of contributors hosting their own models. And there is a lot of similarities in the approach we take, because they have done a phenomenal job at what they've been building. And we are using them. There is templates already for Hugging Face that you can use on the shelf, and it's really comforting, I guess, for our both stories to be sure that there is a way to have open source projects work together. And that's very comforting to me. It's not about it's nothing less than comforting and good to have other projects like this who did so well and that you can use to fuel your own story. So
No, I could definitely see that, what those guys are doing with the AML, you guys are doing with data, right? So, and it's also like a lot community driven, right? And you're right, like, because it's AML, like, there's tons of research going in, but, like you could actually pick a lot of those things and like sort of, bring to your table and make it like more and more people to adopt it, right? So I definitely see a lot of synergy, and even the philosophy, like sort of, works really well. And that could be your pitch, right? I mean, what Hugging Face has done with AML, you're doing for databases, right? So that's it. I mean, you relate that way.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly that.
Awesome, cool. So see, I think we're sort of coming down to the thread, right? So just like one quick question before we open up for the folks to actually ask you any question. Like, what has been your journey, right? So you said actually you've been like almost like 2 years on this thing. What are the learnings? Like what are things actually you could done better? In terms of your journey, like.
A lot of things, right? But you learn as you go. So I would say first, it's more focused on developer relations. Taking more time to understand who the people who are contributing to your open source are and why are they contributing. This is, I think, the hardest part, because sometimes when you have a contributor, it's only a GitHub ID name that is not even, sometimes you don't know who is behind the GitHub ID. So this is the hard part, is to make sure, like, I think I would have focused more on GitHub and focus more on the organization, the clarity, the documentation. But we are in the middle of fixing this. Onboarding is really connected to this, and then just keeping in mind that whatever you do for the open source community needs to be useful for some businesses at some point.
Yeah.
And I think we miss discussions like this in the open source world. Like, yeah, we do stuff open source, but what we all dream of is to just do open source and get paid. So why not tackling this to the open? Right now, I feel like there is still, a bit of, yeah, I do open source, I do this in my spare time, it's fun, blah blah blah. Yes, but what if you get money for getting open source contribution? Wouldn't that be great? No one will say no. So I think there's, I would call for a more like open discussion on this and on the global community, because yes, it's fair enough to contribute to open source, but if it can serve an actual purpose for businesses that do good, because we can also see a lot of businesses that needs to have support from the open source community to build solutions for tomorrow, because we have so many problems to fix on this earth. So it's time to get to work and to use open source to fuel businesses that do good. And I think we shouldn't be scared about talking about money and open source, about business and open source. This open source works and lives because it has a commercial use at one point. Look at Linux. Look at Linux. Look at Red Hat. Look at you look at all of this, PyTorch, NumPy, Scikit-learn. All the financial industry, all those trading bots. Can you imagine the amount of money every day that is generated through code that has been written to the open source?
Yeah, it's pretty much crazy, right? More than 80% of the components right now is just open source, right? So
yeah,
it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's even more than this. So it means that already every day, the million of dollars that are injected into financial markets and all those bots trading, etc., they run with open source libraries, where the creators of these open source libraries get zero. So this is not fair. We should make sure that this works out better in the future, and that no one company can use the open source and be like, yeah, just use it. We should. There's so much things to crack here, to make sure that money goes to those also created and give back to open source. And I think this is the ultimate call I can make.
The stuff you mentioned is just our pitch, right? So this is what we are trying to. In fact, we're sort of running a beta right now. Yeah, what we're doing, we're sort of getting the contributors around the project to help the business or users and get paid for that. Right? So it can be something as simple as helping them implementing stuff, right? Or maybe integration, right? Or maybe feature, which can be which comes from the core maintenance as well. So one of the things we learned was the fact that there are tons of service consulting and all this is happening outside the purview of the project, right? So what if we can actually bring them under one single umbrella under the project, right? You support your community, get paid for that, and a part of it also goes back to the core maintenance, right? So that's the way we are kickstarting. So this has been our journey, and I think end of this month we are starting with 2 projects. One is a security, one is a no-code or a low-code tool. Starting with their community, and if you're interested, we definitely love to bring you on board. And so idea being you guide the community members, helping more and more users adopt it, right? So you clearly mentioned about Linux. see, Linux took off because of Red Hat, right? Red Hat made it like, packaged in a way that actually business can consume, right? But if you look at most of the open source projects, it still needs some kind of, hand holding, or someone to have to do that heavy lifting, right?
Yes.
Community already knew about this bit, right? I mean, there are people who are already using it, they already forked it, they played around, right? So if there's a way for them to sort of like, extend their time for whatever stuff, for the users to adopt the tool, it's win-win for both the community as well as for the product, right? So that's something we are implementing. We think, I mean, we did a ton of research and be able to figure out there's, like I said, crazy amount of work that's happening outside, and why don't we just like start there, right? Can we bring a part of it to the project, under the project? The maintainers can help them, like they can guide them, right? So that's how we're starting. But as we grow, I think we'll add more and more ways to actually bring more and more demand here.
Yeah, you're doing great, and I really like what you guys are building. I think it all makes sense to get partners like you guys in an open source project to make sure that all the dependencies, all those people that are gravitating around the project can actually come down to a same conversational place that is out of probably the common GitHub thread, but more around strategy, more around events and talks like this. I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys actually do the heavy lifting, right? We're just like enabling the bridge between maintainers and contributors. That's what we're trying to focus on. Awesome. As a host, my job was very, very easy. Like I had like more and more questions in depth. The first 15 minutes was fantastic. So I think that would be the reason actually people.
Yeah, I want you to go straight to the point, so we have no BS going on, and we can just talk about the right stuff. Which is this whatever we've been talking about is I think the key here is like let's talk clear, and let's hope that open source can bring value back to creators in a more efficient way. I think this is what you guys are at. So yeah.
Fantastic, cool. So I think that's pretty much from us. Jeremy, once again, thanks for your time. Being a maintainer, it's like we always say being a maintainer is like almost 2 hours of work. Running a startup, right? You have a community, you have work as a CEO, right? So I completely understand your time is like as precious as anyone else I know. So thanks for spending time, answering questions and all stuff. And also, folks who tuned in, we are starting something called Feedback Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, we every fortnight we're gonna bring a project or a product to sort of do a spaces with. So we have the next one lined up on next Wednesday. So if you guys tuning in for that, we are super excited to be here. So once again, Jeremy, thanks for your time, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.